What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six podcast. If you thought you were done with the Pick Show squad, honestly, so did we. However, RJ and I are still here sticking it out. Unfortunately, Prop Stars and Brinson had some conflicts today, but it is never too early to talk about Super Bowl 59. We know that Super Bowl 58 just ended. Of course, RJ, I am heartbroken over what happened. Still taking me a few days to get over it. This episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. RJ, you were telling me about a moment that meant more to you with this Super Bowl. You cashed a big 25-1 ticket.
Yeah, before I go into that, let's just say, if anybody deserves today off, it's Katie. I mean, Katie's
Thank
team just
you.
a
Thank you.
brutal
I'm
loss
the
in the Super
best
Bowl,
one.
second time in 4 years. I mean, just a trooper to show up here for this show. I don't know if I could do it if Buffalo finally got to a Super Bowl, looked like it was in hand. And, I might take the rest of the week off. So, yeah, I was able to get a non-quarterback to throw a touchdown at 25-1. I thought it might be Christian McCaffrey. I thought it might be Travis Kelce. It was Drawn Jennings of all people, but we'll take it. We'll cash it. It wasn't, I didn't put a massive amount on it with those long shot 25-1 bets. You're not putting a full unit on it anyway, but it was a nice little cash.
An incredible cash and such a good call by you. It's one of those things where, like, hindsight 2020, of course that was going to happen, but still odds of 25-1. So that's amazing. And we were talking a little bit in the pre-show. You cashed a lot of good bets for the Super Bowl. Again, I'm here. I've transitioned into my Warriors fandom now. We've got our Loon God shirt on. It's at this point I always look for the Warriors for my happiness, which this season, I don't know. It's a little risky. But guys, if you like winning picks, make sure you sign up at sportsline.com. Use the promo code PICK to get your first month for just $1. And RJ, speaking of sportsline.com, you wrote a fantastic article that is going to be kind of the blueprint for our episode today. It's Super Bowl 59 odds, picks ranking all 32 teams by best betting value to win next year's championship. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you came up with this?
Yeah, so what we did is we took the 4 major sports books and averaged their odds together to give you kind of a consensus or an average odds of where each team is perceived in the market coming right out of the Super Bowl. This was Monday, so this was the day after the Super Bowl. And then I went through and I went 32-1, ranking the worst value to the best value. The team I definitely would not bet at those odds, all the way down to the team I think is worth the best odds. So you can get all 32 teams. You get some, because it's done by value, you get some weirdness like a Washington Commanders team, which I think is pretty valuable. We'll get into a little bit, in a little bit, is down in the 10-15 range, as opposed to people like, well, they have no chance to win the Super Bowl. Why would you have them that high? So it's all done by value. It's just give you an early look at thinking about which teams are going to be the best value and which might actually gain in odds and which might lose in odds before we get to September.
Well, very exciting. And again, that is the blueprint for our episode. If you missed the last episode, make sure that you check that out in the feed. We got Tyler Sullivan, Brady Quinn, and Lige Douzable previewing the 2024 offseason biggest storylines. Again, check that out on our YouTube channel, anywhere that you get your podcasts. The last episode, we thought it was our last one, but again, we are back here. Well, two of the 4 holding it down. Here is our final betting record for the 2023-24 season. I won the regular season, and then I bombed in the postseason, ended up below 500, 58-65. Went 4-3, though, with my Super Bowl picks. RJ, you are, well, I guess you and Prop Stars are the only ones with winning records, but yours a little bit more. How you feeling?
Yeah, he beat me by, I would give him the crown. He was +2. I was +1. Of course, still not great because we're trying to beat the VIG here. So I don't think it was a great season. Longtime listeners will know that me and Prisco have had some pretty good years on this podcast. So we're going to try to do better next year. But it was a tough playoffs for a lot of us, but I think it was a pretty solid Super Bowl for the group here.
Honestly, it makes sense that the 2 professional bettors ended up above 500, and the 2 degens, Brinson and I, ended up falling just below. But we had a blast doing it. All right, so let's get right into this, RJ. Super Bowl 59 favorites. You kind of already went through how you did this on the site. Again, everybody sign up, sportsline.com, promo code PICK, get your first month for just $1. So if we're looking at tier 1 and tier 2, break that down for what that means.
Yeah, so we're just going to go through by what the odds say, who is favored by the least and the most, whatever. So tier 1 is going to be the 2 teams that were just in the Super Bowl. They're definitely the 2 consensus favorites to go in. San Francisco's number 1, Kansas City's number 2.
Now, why do you think that is? Why are the Niners favored? Even as a Niners fan, this is ludicrous.
Yeah, and I kind of had the same reaction. I figure Kansas City needs to be number one. They are at that New England level of they should be the favorite every year. They should probably be getting 5-1 or worse every year. I mean, we've seen several years before this recent stretch where the favorite was getting 5-1 or worse. I mean, we had a year where like the Seahawks coming off that big win were getting like 3-1. So, the fact that Kansas City is down this low, I think it reflects the reality that they're going to lose some key guys on defense probably.
Mm,
Free agency is going to hurt them there, and they still don't really have a great answer for who's the number one, number two receivers. Rashee Rice came on strong. Is he going to be the number one? And if even if he is, who's going to complement him?
right.
So it's hard to erase what we saw in the whole regular season just based on the postseason. But they're going to get to the postseason. They're going to
Yeah,
win the division, and when they do, we've seen what happens. So I think it's probably a reflection of the AFC being more
tougher.
difficult to get through than the NFC, which
Yeah.
is what we saw last year. But it didn't matter this year. They went on the road. They still beat people. So I would make them the favorite. But I agree that these two teams should be the top two.
Yeah, I agree with you. Until any team proves that they can beat Patrick Mahomes, which hasn't, unless you're named Tom Brady, no one has proven that they can do that. So I think that they should be the favorite. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know why the odds are as such. Because it's been 2 years in a row. We thought that Kansas City was going to take a step back. There was last year with no Tyreek Hill, they win the Super Bowl, and then this year with the way that things started out, with no having no true wide receiver one or any good receivers that weren't dropping the ball, and then they come back and they're the first team with back-to-back championships in 20 years. So agree with you there. And it's interesting what you said, RJ, about the NFC being an easier road to the Super Bowl because it's just not as stacked as the AFC is. Who do you think has a tougher return to the Super Bowl? Is it the Niners or is it the Chiefs?
Yeah, on paper, you'd say Kansas City probably has a tougher path because they have those things to figure out on defense. But I'm going to go with San Francisco. I mean, there's a lot of good young talent, good young teams coming into their own in the NFC. We saw the Lions were on the verge. We saw the Packers almost got that win. I think they're going to both could get better going into this offseason. So I don't know that it's necessarily going to be that easy
Yeah.
for San Francisco as it was perceived coming into this year when it was just them and Philly. And so
Yeah.
it really felt like a two-horse race, and then Philly fell off toward the end of the season after starting 10-1. I think this is a much tougher conference going into this offseason than it was last year. So I'm going to say San Francisco just for the way that they kind of got through the playoffs, kind
Yeah.
of by
By hook or by crook.
yeah, I was going to say that exact thing by edging teams out here and there. And I think Kansas City has proven, they whatever they look like in the regular season, they're just getting ready for the playoffs because they know that's when their season starts.
Yeah, San Francisco's got some people they got to look at too, and see if they can hold on to. I will say, in terms of the AFC, there's one person who has been at least a little bit of a kryptonite for Patrick Mahomes, and that's Joe Burrow. Obviously, he was taken out pretty early in the season this year, so that's maybe a frisky team to look at. But I agree that the AFC is just a lot tougher. I mean, I feel like Baltimore should have won the AFC Championship game still. Had they not abandoned the run, maybe we're having a different conversation this morning. So I do think it is going to be tough for Kansas City to come back. But then, like you said, the 49ers, the NFC is getting harder. Even the NFC West, the Rams surprised a lot of people this year. That was a team that was scary getting into the postseason. That continues. They've got a lot of great youth on their side. You look at the Seahawks. We'll see what the coaching situation in the new team looks like moving forward without Pete Carroll. But that's another team that's going to give us some problems, us 49ers fans. And then the Lions. I think the Lions are still a frisky, tough team. So we'll see how they look next year. All right. So if these are the odds on September 1st, are you taking either? I mean, I feel like we both said that we're taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, if these are the odds September 1st and they don't move, I think the Chiefs are a great bet at plus 650. They opened at plus 750 at one book, as you can see on the screen there. That quickly changed. I think people saw the value of that even 11 months or 364 days out. That's a bet you make at plus 750, and you just let your money stay there. But I know a lot of people aren't going to be betting futures this early. They're going to wait till closer to the season. But if it's still around the 650, I'm taking the Chiefs. And if the 49ers don't drop any and they're still the favorite,
Yeah.
I'm not really playing them at that number.
I have to ask you though, because a lot of the talk right now is Kyle Shanahan 0-3 with Super Bowls. Is that something that you're buying into? Because how long did it take Andy Reid to win his first Super Bowl?
Yeah, exactly. It's tougher. You need everything to go right to win a Super Bowl, and not everybody gets the cheat code. And one of these times, if he's proven to be a quality coach, and he's getting to these Super Bowls twice in 4 years now, and had that meltdown. Obviously, that wasn't all his fault with the Falcons. You just think it's going to get there. He's too good of a coach, and if San Francisco said, okay, this isn't working, we need to turn it over, and we find somebody to win us a Super Bowl, he's getting hired by 28 teams, as soon as he walks out the door with his proven record here. So I think it's fine for him. I think he's going to break through at some point.
Yeah, there's some fans that are just losing their minds. They think Kyle Shanahan should be fired. They think he should just be an offensive coordinator somewhere. Like, y'all need to relax. All right, so that's tier one, repeat of last year with the Chiefs and the 49ers. Moving on down to tier two. So these are teams that are under plus 2,000 at 20-1. So the Ravens, the Bills, the Lions, the Bengals, the Cowboys, Eagles, and Dolphins. Of those teams, RJ, who do you think belongs up there with SF and KC?
Yeah, so the Baltimore is the easy answer because they have the lowest
Yeah.
odds, and actually coming out of the AFC Championship, they had better odds than the Chiefs to win next year's Super Bowl, and we saw that move. But I'm not really going there. I think Buffalo or Detroit are the main contenders for me. I'm not super optimistic as a Bills fan. It feels like our window might be closing, but they still have one of the best quarterbacks on the planet there, and you have to figure that even with his cap hit rising. They should have better health on the defensive side. I'm going to give them a shot. Nobody was able to take down the Chiefs, but they came the closest, really, it seemed like. And I know that they can go and score with them. They've proven it in the past and just been, done in by overtime rules. But I think they've proven they could step up and go blow for blow with Patrick Mahomes when all said and done. So I kind of like their chances more than Baltimore's, where I'm still a little bit questionable on what Baltimore's going to do, especially losing a very good defensive coordinator there that really made his mark the last 2 years. And then NFC side, I think Detroit, they were so close this year. They very young. They've nailed their drafts for like 3, 4, 5 years running, and all this great young talent that is going to come into its own at some point. They have some issues on the defensive side they need to fix, but they were able to retain both coordinators, two very good coordinators, which tells you Ben Johnson could have gotten a head coaching job wherever he wanted. Yeah. And that tells you that he believes in this team.
Why doesn't he's now blown off multiple teams in multiple years? Do you think he just doesn't want to be a head coach?
I think he does. I think he's looking for the right situation, and if it feels like that there's something better can come up, he'll take that the next year. And when you're one of these upstart coordinators, you need to get into the right situation. You need to know you're going to get with an elite quarterback at some point, so you can be the Bengals coach Zach Taylor, and not one of these other 40 guys that flame out every few years. So I think he's just looking for the right opportunity.
Yeah, but you know what? You get a reputation if you keep bailing on people last minute. But yeah, his work certainly speaks for himself. When I look at I think I'm going what I said earlier. This Bengals team. Look, I had a futures on the Bengals this year at 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. I really like their chances this year. Obviously, with Joe Burrow getting hurt early on, that kind of took them out of the conversation. However, this team still performed really well, even with their backup quarterback. And I do think that they have proven that they can beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, because that's what we're talking about here in the AFC. Can you beat the Chiefs team? And I do believe that the Bengals can. So I like them a lot. The Ravens just haven't proven to me that they can get it done in the offseason. They have these really flashy, great regular seasons, and then they get to the postseason and they tend to fall apart. The Bills have just taken my money so many times, RJ, that I keep saying I'm not going to do it. And then at some point I see Josh Allen on the sideline looking sad after he threw an interception. I think, I'm going to throw money on this guy. So I don't know. But as of right now, I'm not going to do it. I really, really like the Bengals. And I think that the Lions too. This team gets better and better every year, and the fan base is so incredible. And we've really seen a resurgence of Jared Goff and what he's been able to do. So I like them a lot. Plus, they've got the two-headed monster with the running backs. So I like them. So who do you think belongs in the lower tier? Like, you look at this Eagles team, they're kind of in shambles right now.
The Eagles are an interesting case. I'll get to them in a second. I think we included Miami here at 20-1. Yeah. I think they have a lot of questions on defense. Vic Fangio leaving now. We know what that defense was before he got there. It was kind of a mess and holding them back. And I really think he made his mark there this season up until injuries hit them. And he's part of the reason they were so successful. They also have questions on the offensive line. I mean, it's you got to keep Tua up. And really, when you boil it down, I mean, this team is several stars. They can score with the best of them because of their scheme and how great a coach Mike McDaniel is. But I'm not sure that they should belong with some of these other teams up here in this tier. So I would probably boot them a little bit downward.
Do you have question marks about Mike McDaniel as a coach?
I wouldn't. I don't think so. I think, and just to say I don't think so, maybe I do. But
Yeah,
in
a
this
little
day and
hinge of
age,
it.
in this day and age, you need a very creative offense to get it done and be able to score points. And he's shown he could do that. I mean, 70 points in a game last year. He can get that part of it done. And I think he's probably more held back by personnel than anything else. But I do think he has the ability to generate offenses that are going to score a ton of points. So I'm okay with him. The other one I might put down, if we say 2000 is a little bit too high, is Dallas. They also lost a defensive coordinator that is one of the best in the league there. Really, took that defense to the next level. Yeah. And now they're stuck, with brought another good win in, but Mike McCarthy always had questions about whether he could get it done with this team. And it seems like they are always less than the sum of their parts in Dallas. And it seems like they should be better. They got the 2 seed this year. They roll up and then they lose a game. So, I mean, I don't know when it's going to happen for Dallas. It felt like this was the year that they should have made a deep run and they were one and done. So I wouldn't put them in this group either.
I wouldn't either. So interesting because you talk about, oh my God, hello. Will Brinson has joined the show. Welcome.
What's up? I think my voice isn't working very well.
Oh, we've still got Vegas casino voice.
No, it's I think it's whatever I caught. Around. Yeah.
Yeah. Wilson is fairly sick too. And Hassel is fairly sick. A lot of the CBS crew went down hard.
Yeah, that didn't help being in Vegas, but yes, done feeling well. I picked up my dog George, and George and I both took a nap, and George was snoring so loud that he actually overpowered my alarm, and that's why I'm talking.
The soothing sounds of George. Well, Brinson, as you know, because you've seen this rundown, we are going through the odds of Super Bowl 59. We've already talked about Tier 1, which is San Francisco and Kansas City. RJ and I both agree there's no reason that San Francisco should be favored here. It should be Kansas City. We've now gone in to Tier 2, which are teams under 20-1. So that's Ravens, Bills, Lions, Bengals, Cowboys, Eagles, Dolphins. Of those teams, who do you think should be up there with San Francisco and Kansas City?
Yeah, I think you make the case for the Los Angeles. No, I'm just kidding. I agree. Kansas City should be favored.
Yeah,
and then after that, I do think it's Baltimore or Buffalo. Buffalo is going to be really interesting this offseason because all that great momentum they had going into the playoffs and, comes to a screeching halt. Why? Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And will Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane be allowed to just continue in their current path? We haven't seen Terry Pagula really, inject himself into the process very much. That's largely because the Bills have been good under Sean McDermott. But now you feel like, sort of like whatever – the team that you just can't get past the Chiefs. Do you have to do something, make some big move, and will Stephon Diggs be happy? So I think Buffalo, depending on what they do this offseason, a good case to be there. I think the Lions have a decent case, although the core talent that they have there to me deserve you can see them being under 10-1. Did I miss pick teams? Is that what?
No, you're basically on the money with what RJ and I said. We were actually just talking about like what team doesn't belong there then, like who's a lower tier. And basically RJ and I were talking about the Cowboys losing their defensive coordinator is going to be a huge deal. Eagles seem to be a little bit in shambles right now. And the Dolphins kind of haven't proven that they could get things done. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, does Philly have to play San Francisco week 1? We don't hate for them to break their season again, break their entire locker room in half. I think the Dolphins definitely apply. Beat somebody good.
Yeah,
you got to beat somebody good for anyone to believe in what Miami's going to do. And we're just talking under 20-1, right?
Yep,
correct.
Okay, cool. Because I was going to say I think there are a couple teams right afterwards that would qualify as well. We'll get to them in a second. I know I'm late. I'm just asking.
No, hey, it's okay. You're on board. We're happy to have you.
The Cowboys
Those are the exciting teams too. So that,
I
I understand your excitement because, those are the teams everybody's going to want to talk about this offseason.
Yeah. I think people forget how bad the Cowboys were before Dan Quinn got there. Mike Nolan was a terrible defensive coordinator, and Mike Zimmer is a very good defensive coordinator. But Dan Quinn did an awesome job with that defense. And now you are changing over coordinators, and I think we could see. Look, Zim's a great coach, but we could see a drop off in terms of that defense. If that defense drops off, if Washington takes a step forward at all, if the Giants bounce back, Philly maintains their level of play, it might be tougher for Dallas to get to that 12-win threshold.
But Zimmer, highly decorated coach, very, very well thought of as a head coach. But remember, the end of that tenure, I think people thought he might have lost his fastball some. So I think he's going to have to come in and reestablish that he can be at the level of a Dan Quinn, because I think there were a lot of questions about his defense when he was relieved of his duties there.
Yeah, at 67 years old and working for Mike McCarthy, a guy who, I didn't think he was that tight with Mike McCarthy. Mike Zimmer has long time ties to Dallas and Jerry Jones as well. You sort of wonder, is he close to Mike McCarthy? If they start slow, is there a little bit of infighting there? Where Mike Zimmer ain't going to suffer if his defense is playing well, the offense isn't, and the Cowboys are getting yelled about it nationally. Mike Zimmer ain't going to be quiet just if they're like, it's a team effort. He's gonna bark at people.
So obviously we know that Bill Belichick didn't take any head coaching jobs, at least not as of yet, which I can't see that happening. But there is some DC openings coming up, like with the Cowboys or the 49ers. I've seen some rumbling online. Do either of you think that Bill Belichick would take a DC job somewhere?
I'm going to say no. I think he's going to take a year off, see how he likes it, and see if he wants to get back into coaching. If it's the right situation didn't come, he didn't get hired, might as well take that gap year, as it were. For the young spry Bill Belichick and kids what they do coming out of high school, take that gap year. So I think he's going to do that, see how he likes it, and if the pull is too strong, he'll know that it's not time for him to retire, and he'll be back next year.
I thought you meant take that second junior year or whatever, third sophomore season. I actually think that I think I saw you tweet about this, Katie. I think the San Francisco stuff is a little spicier than maybe people think it could be. Look, Steve Wilkes.
You think he'd work under Shanahan?
He hand picked Kyle Shanahan to give Jimmy Garoppolo to.
Right,
when Bob Kraft said, you're trading Jimmy Garoppolo because we're keeping Tom Brady, Bill Belichick you read the Wickersham articles, he basically was like, all right, F you. I'll trade him for nothing. I'll trade him for a second-round pick out of nowhere to the 49ers. And by the way, that probably cost the 49ers a chance to get Patrick Mahomes. Nevertheless, I digress. But I think that Kyle Shanahan, Steve Wilkes is an awesome dude. And
I don't know that he was ever a good fit, though.
I don't think so either. And look, that defense took a huge drop off. People are like, oh, look what he did to the Chiefs. It's yeah, that's one game. They played great, but there was a huge drop off for the full season from Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans to Steve Wilkes. Belichick comes in and turns that defense into a top unit. He had a great defense in New England. You get a chance to make another Super Bowl run in San Francisco, and then people would be like, every team that passed on him would be absolutely panicked.
I just can't see him doing it. All right. So when we look at these odds, who do you think, RJ, odds can change the most based on their offseason, right? We got some players moving into free agency. We've got some draft picks we got to consider.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati is one. You already hit on them. People should be excited to bet on them with Joe Burrow. If we get positive health stuff throughout the summer, I think they're going to be a strong contender to move up. So that's one. And it depends on what they do in free agency. T. Higgins, it sounds like he might come back on the franchise tag. That's a huge retainer for them because that would have been big if they lost him. And then people just started taking out Jamar Chase as much as they could, triple teaming him, and then who's going to beat you there? But they have some issues on defense to fix. So we'll see if they make some good signings there. People I can see get excited about them. And you mentioned Eagles going down. I think the Eagles could have some momentum going into the summer too, because we know they're going to get aggressive. They always do. They're going to try to address some of their concerns on the roster. I think a lot of their concerns were coaching based, and the reason they fell apart was coaching based on defense. And they brought in 2 very good coordinators, and so people will see that and see this is light and day, more accomplished guys, better guys, and they can take this team to the next level because we know what these guys can do.
Any thoughts, Brinson?
No, I think RJ's spot on.
Yeah, I agree. Spot on, RJ, as usual. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, the odds get longer, but we're staying. There's still a chance for some of these teams. You're watching Pick Six. We'll be right back.
Tiger Woods makes his first PGA Tour appearance of 2024, headlining a fantastic field at the Genesis Invitational this weekend on CBS.
All right, Katie mentioned some long shot bets to make. We can't make the Pick Six parlay this week because
never won, by the way. You're welcome. You're welcome. We're not doing it.
That's right. But you couldn't fade it. It came like really close to winning every week, and it was a good effort. Maybe they should have put it on the site, and we would have gotten a bunch of clicks, and then people could have, actually then maybe the mojo would have gotten it going. We missed it. We missed it on some longer odds. Anyway, this Pick Six podcast. Super Bowl 59 long shot segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Let's look at some teams with 20-1 or longer odds we think have a shot at making it to Super Bowl 59. RJ, you sort of referenced it. The teams everybody wants to talk about. You love to talk about this team, don't you?
Yeah. First off, I'm glad you showed up because I was going to make 2 picks, one for me and one for you, because I know who your pick is, and that was almost my pick too. But I didn't want to step on your toes, so I'm going to go with the Packers at plus 2,500 at FanDuel. They might have a star quarterback. I mean, you see what he did down the stretch. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league performance-wise, and he was dealing with a lot of injuries. Lost Aaron Jones for a big chunk, lost Christian Watson for a big chunk. Luke Musgrave was out. Jaden Reed also dealt with injury, and he was throwing to a lot of nobodies, really. I mean, guys that weren't that established, and he was getting it done. So Jordan Love, I think, could be a top 10 quarterback in this league. Could be a top 5 quarterback in this league based on his performance down the stretch. It's a little too early to cement him into that, but that possibility is there. So if you have that, and you have a defense that I think is going to be much better next year, got better at coordinator, I believe. You also have the youngest roster in the league, so expect development from them. Division looks winnable. We talked up Detroit, but Detroit isn't by no means a juggernaut that's always winning the division like a Kansas City. I think Green Bay can break through and get a 1 seed, 2 seed out of nowhere, and then you'll be so glad you have 25-1.
I love that. I was wondering what you were talking about with Brinson, and then I looked one below what I'm going to go.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude.
oh, there he is. There he is. I'm going to go with the Houston Texans on this one. They're at 25-1. Look, this team surprised a lot of people this year, winning their division. Well, one, getting into the playoffs, winning their division, and then going into the divisional round up against the Ravens. They arguably had the best draft last year. They are well coached. They have a good defense, and CJ Stroud is an absolute rock star. So obviously, it's tough to get out of their conference here, but I do think this is a fun and frisky team and worth a little sprinkle. So I'll go Houston Texans at 25-1. Who could Brinson be taking?
So I think the Texans are really interesting because I'm curious what RJ thinks. Well, we can sort of touch on it, I guess, in the next segment. But instead, I'll just point out that I love the Rams.
Yeah,
How
big Rams guy.
Big Rams guy. Look, this Rams team isn't a fluke. They have elite talent on both sides of the ball. Puka Nacua is a special player. They got him late in the draft. Cooper Kupp, I think, will bounce back and have a much better season than people expect, although not like that elite number 1 season that he had because Puka's around. The offensive line, they completely overhauled. Matthew Stafford, if he plays the full season, is it going to be an MVP candidate? Did he get an MVP vote? I can't remember. I forgot to look. I don't think he did. But
I thought Prisco. I thought Prisco was going to do it for you.
Prisco's a coward and a loser and a clown, and he wouldn't do it for me. He is.
Coward, loser, clown. Got it.
He's a coward. He's a cowardly loser of a clown, actually.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Clip that and tag it. Clip that, tweet it, and tag him. He's too old to be able to hear what I'm saying because my voice is shot. By the way, you can go and Starbucks has this thing called the medicine ball. You heard about that? It's like a venti green tea with like lemon and like I'm trying it, man. I'm trying. I can't do anything.
Yeah. You need honey.
Yeah, I've got some honey. I got a little bear. But I think look, the Rams have a lot of good defensive pieces. Kobe Turner obviously could have been more involved as the defensive rookie of the year, excuse me. And I just think they've got a lot of young talent, more young talent than people give them credit for. I think the Rams will be involved in a playoff for plus the Niners, much like Pete Prisco every day in Las Vegas, could be hung over next week.
Yeah. I'm like God, please don't have it be like the 2020 season where everybody got injured and they're not playing in MetLife this year.
That's true. This Pick Six Super Bowl 59 long shot segment has been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. All right, let's talk overall about this third tier of teams too. There's some more teams that interest me. RJ, I'm curious though, the Houston Texans, they have an elite second-year quarterback and what looks like a really good young head coach. They retain Bobby Slowick, which was huge for them, and the development of C.J. Stroud. Says a lot about how Bobby Slowick feels about D'Amico Ryans for him to come back. There's a ton of really good, nice pieces on this team. They're kind of getting the Jaguars treatment from a year before. Start 4-7. Get hot, win the South. The team that's winning collapses. You steal it. You win a playoff game. Got a young quarterback everyone's in love with. Second-year coach. What could go wrong?
When you say it that way.
I think Houston is the key team that's going to be the dark horse darling everybody picks as their sleeper.
Yes.
Not to say that that's a bad pick from the last segment, but I just think that's where
Thanks, RJ. No, I'm just kidding.
well, that's where the attention is going to be. So if you like Houston, get it now because people are going to bet it up.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not going to go backwards this offseason. They're not losing key pieces. Their young pieces that got it done are really young and rookies and those type of things. So I think people are going to be excited about Houston. They're going to think that it's like just like the Jaguars last year, like you said, Brinson, this is their division. And who's going to stop them? So if you do like Houston, I see these odds dropping, and they're just going to be the pick that everybody likes.
How about the Chargers? Jim Harbaugh, guys. How quickly can Jim Harbaugh change things around? We've seen him do it with the 49ers overnight. Took him a little bit longer in Michigan, although
Michigan. He was a double-digit win season first year, and they went 5-7. Do you know how impossible it is to go 5-7 at Michigan? Like you have a cupcake schedule. If you lose to Ohio State, yeah, they get mad. Like they were mad at Harbaugh when he was losing to Ohio State. But Brady Hoke went 5-7 at Michigan. Harbaugh comes in first year, boom, flips it around. Did the same thing with the 49ers. He is a guy who flips a program around. I think these odds at 30-1 are too long for Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of that. I would not touch this team at 30-1 because I know Harbaugh brings that. But this is Justin Herbert going through another OC change. They lost their OC again. They're going through a lot of personnel change. They're way over the cap. They might lose their top 2 edge rushers. They might lose their top 2 receivers. And we saw when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were out, they didn't have much to go to. They couldn't trust Quentin Johnston. Josh Palmer, he did his thing, but he's not a number 1 receiver. He's very good for a number 2, and he could fit that role. So I think that their roster is going to go backwards instead of forwards. Because Justin Herbert's now got to deal with another offense, I'm not sure that they have success. Then you look at, are they going to win the division? Of course not. They have the Chiefs, so they're going to have to play on the road every week in a tough AFC in the postseason, and I just can't see it happening. So I would not invest in them at 30-1.
Harbaugh's a winner, though. It's just I've seen him do it so many times. He's a quarterback's guy, former quarterback. But the Chargers have been the sexy, darling, dark horse for years now, and they haven't done anything. But now they've got Harbaugh. But Brinson, what do you think about the Jets? Last year, the Jets were the very, very sexy team. Everybody believed in them. Of course, Aaron Rodgers gets injured the first second of the season.
Well, 5th second, but yes. 4th.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I know. I mean, that's
he comes out with the flag, and that's pretty much the last that we saw of him.
4 snaps.
Did he even complete a pass? Was at least one pass completed?
I don't think so. I think he was 0 for 1, if I remember right.
0 for 1, yeah. So anyways, he's presumably coming back from everything that we know as of now. Would you put money on the Jets, either of you? Or has the sparkle well, I think
No.
Brinson has now bounced off, so he told us what he thinks.
No, returning to the whose odds could change the most that we talked about in the last segment, the Jets would be mine here, because once he is get a clean bill of health and he's healthy and people are going to talk about them like they did last offseason, like time has not moved forward, and that your 40-year-old quarterback is not coming off a major injury, people are going to get excited about the Jets again, and for all the same reasons they did last year when they were like 16-1, I think 15-1. So
Yeah.
This value is going to dry up pretty quickly once he gets a clean bill of health and he's confirmed back, and maybe they could make a run. I mean, you still have good players on defense, even though that unit underperformed. But it was really weird to me that they didn't make any really changes in leadership. They felt like they could run it back with this group. And I don't know that that's going to work out for them here. And they're really just counting on a guy playing like, the quarterback he was 3 years ago when he was 37. And just time is going to win at some point for everyone, except for Tom Brady, who apparently can go out on his own terms if he wants. So I don't know. I would not back this team, but I can see a lot of people get excited about them in the summer once Aaron Rodgers shows up to camp and he's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited about them. I was placing some futures on them as well. I was buying the hoopla of Aaron Rodgers being happy. You saw him at the Taylor Swift concerts. He was going to all of the Broadway shows. And now I'm just kind of like, I don't know, that O-line still has a lot of question marks to me. Can they even protect him? This 40-year-old quarterback, as you said. Oh, he's back. Welcome back. Brinson, we were just talking about the Jets. And
I disappeared faster than Aaron Rodgers. Huh?
Yeah, that's actually funny and true. But I was just saying, for me, the shine has worn off. I bought into the hoopla last year. I'm not doing it this year. The O-line still, there's too many question marks for me. But RJ was saying that the odds are probably going to shift a lot here because people are going to buy into the Aaron Rodgers magic again.
Really got it all together today. My dog is alive when I get on this podcast. It's a win. I mean, my God.
Oh God.
I'm just kidding. I think I can hear him snoring. Yeah, I think RJ's right. I think that with the interest in Aaron Rodgers, when it comes to the off season and how much he will naturally insert himself into the conversation this off season, that the odds will probably drop. And if he looks good in OTAs, you'll see that shift. So if you're going to buy, now would be the time to buy. You have to think they know they have to know they've got to improve the offensive line. Like if you don't, he's not going to survive, because there was a problem with the other quarterbacks. The defense should be good, and Gerard Mayo's probably going to be a good coach, but Bill Belichick's the GOAT, and replacing him isn't going to be easy, even with a rookie quarterback. We mentioned the questions with the Dolphins and the Bills as well. Like we don't know what we're going to see for the Bills in terms of turnover, and so if the Bills have a big shift and the Dolphins don't make some, I just think the Jets are. Now, if you're going to buy on the Jets, now is the time to buy low. I don't know that I love buying them, but I think it's a decent buy low.
All right, moving on to the fourth tier, teams with 35-1 up to 50-1 to win next year's Super Bowl. We got the Bears, the Browns, the Falcons, the Vikings, and the Colts. Bears easily could become the favorite dark horse pick with their draft capital. I was high on them last year. I was wrong. I might have just been a year too early. Of course, we still have to figure out what they're doing with their quarterback. Do they keep Justin Fields? Do they go for Caleb? I don't know. I still kind of like the Bears here. What are you thinking, RJ?
Yeah, the Bears, I think, if it's not going to be the Texans, the Bears are going to be the team everybody gets excited about. They're going to have, I think, Caleb Williams at number one. They're going to get, a good draft haul for Justin Fields, so they'll have even more draft capital. They have the number 9 pick also. And so I think people are going to get really excited. I mean, this defense played their butts off down the stretch. They were one of the better defenses in the league down the second half of the season. And you couple that with what could be an upgrade at quarterback and people getting excited about that offense and the changes they made there with Shane Waldron coming in. I mean, people are going to be excited about this team. So I could see these odds shrinking pretty quickly and getting down to that where Houston, Green Bay is now, and at least the Rams down there in that 30 to 35 range, because Chicago just seems a team everybody wants to be ahead of and be in on and be the Texans of this year, where I got to them first.
Yep. I think that's the case for sure. Chicago, here's the thing. When we talk about a lot of the stuff this offseason, or during the end of the season, when the Bears were playing well and Justin Fields was playing well, it was like, oh my God, imagine what the Bears would look like if you take all these picks and surround Justin Fields with this stuff. It's like, yeah, it's pretty intriguing. They're not going to do that. They're taking Caleb Williams. Like, I mean, yeah, he couldn't run the table at USC in the Pac-12. I mean, yeah, there's questions about him. So I think, rookie quarterback, learning a new system.
Oh, but he still needs the weapons.
Yeah, but they're not going to be able to get – I mean, they're going to be able to get maybe a weapon, but it's going to be harder to pull off now than it would be like when people were hyping up trading the pick and keeping Justin Fields. So, yeah, I think in a division where Green Bay is good, the Vikings could bounce back, and the Lions are a team with a lot of young talent. I think the Bears are still the worst team in that division.
Ugh, rough. Well, I don't know why they kept Eberflus too. I was hoping that they would make a run for Harbaugh.
The defense played pretty well down the stretch. That's why.
Fair. All right. Anyone else worth watching? Brinson, you were really high on Atlanta this year, kind of in the beginning of the season. And, we got Indianapolis coming back with Richardson, who left pretty early on in the season. Brinson, worth watching those two?
Yeah, for sure. I think that with Falcons, Raheem Morris, I know people are going to I don't think people are that excited about this hire. I think they should be. Raheem Morris was much better than people understand in his first stint in Tampa Bay. He was 32 years old. Like, I mean, being a head coach at 32 back then, that was nice. I think might have been the youngest coach in NFL history at that point in time. And he had a really young team. They won a bunch of games his first year. I think 10-6 his first year, and then sort of fell apart. There was some off-field stuff with Josh Freeman that didn't really get reported. And then he had Josh Johnson he was trying to work with. This time around, highly respected, learned a lot of stuff. That defense should remain playing at a high level. And he brings in Zach Robinson as his OC. By the way, Jimmy Lake, pretty good defensive coordinator. Had a bad run at Washington, but I mean, that's two good coordinators that are flying under the radar. Robinson could get this offense going. If they find a quarterback early in the draft, I think Atlanta could certainly win a very bad division and be sort of a surprise team. And then Indianapolis, they were a playoff team, basically, with Shane Steichen and Gardner Minshew. If Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, and that's a big if, then I think they could definitely be a playoff team again.
He's got to learn how to protect himself.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing there. I mean, that's a stylistic difference between Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew, and Shane Steichen almost got that team to the playoffs anyway. Very good coaching job by him. And we saw the Eagles kind of collapse without their coordinators. He was a big part of what they did well last year. So I think he's really a strong head coach, and we're going to see him make a run for some coach of the year. If they'd have won the division with Gardner Minshew, he might have edged out Kevin Stefanski. I know DeMeco Ryans almost did. Those two tied, but I could have seen Shane Steichen winning the award with Gardner Minshew as quarterback if he wins the division and gets to the playoffs. So I really like them. I really like Anthony Richardson getting now. We figured he would benefit sitting the full year and learning the playbook and coming back strong. That didn't happen, and he looked really good for the little time he was in. But things happen, and now he did get to sit for the full year and learn the playbook. And I think he's going to come back and play really well next year. And the gap between this team and Houston, I don't think is as big as these odds tell you they are. So I think 50-1, Indy is a pretty good play here.
I don't hate the Vikings either, honestly. The Browns, no thanks, but just because they're Joe Flacco, we don't. Back? Cousins is probably going to come back to Minnesota, although you could certainly sign elsewhere. I just think the nature of the injury and the timing and everything, he's more than likely to come back. And so I think that if Cousins returns and he can return quickly, then it's a team that can compete in that division. And Kevin O'Connell has shown that he's a very good head coach. I mentioned Pete Prisco multiple times earlier. He is a piece of trash. So.
Well, we're just catching strays left and right on this show.
These are strays. These are
bombs.
Yeah, absolutely bombed. Speaking of trash and Pete Prisco, let's talk about some trash teams next after the break.
Out there are two colossal beings, both forces of nature in their own regard. But in here, as soon as the chute bursts open, the duality of man and beast begins to fade. This is PDR, on CBS Sports Network.
All right, some deep teams to win the Super Bowl. It's technically the fifth tier, and I actually think this is where RJ may shine a little bit.
Yeah.
I know there's one team that you like here, RJ. It's surprising to see the Buccaneers here. I mean, they won a playoff game last year, won the division, hosted a playoff game, beat the defending NFC champions, and you get them at 75-1, or is it 70-1, whatever it is. And then elsewhere in the NFC, RJ, your Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we did this for early look coming out of the conference championships and into Super Bowl week, we had our best picks, and my NFC pick was the Seahawks at 75-1. I've been thinking about it for the last 2 weeks. Obviously, did not make them my top pick in the article, but I do think they are very good value at 75-1. Did not work out last year. They just missed the playoffs, though. It's not like it was a disaster year. They performed about to expectations. And a young roster could take a step forward next year. It seems like it's a downgrade at coach because of Pete Carroll's accomplishments, but really high on Mike McDonald and the job he did with Baltimore. I could see him come in and elevate this defense, make it a top 5 defense pretty quickly with the talent they have there. And if it all comes back to the reason I didn't put them as high after I thought about it as Geno Smith. Is Geno Smith going to be the guy we saw 2 years ago for most of the season? If he's that guy, they can win a Super Bowl. If not, they got to figure out something else at quarterback, because the guy that he was last year, I don't think was good enough to win a Super Bowl.
I like that. Hard to argue with it, but hear me out. Let's say Chicago takes Caleb Williams. That frees up Justin Fields. What if Justin Fields goes to Pittsburgh? And then you got Justin Fields with Mike Tomlin with that defense and a couple good weapons there. 90-1.
If they upgrade a quarterback, like that's the pick out of this group for sure.
Yeah, and then
I can't stay with Kenny Pickett. I mean, Jesus.
Well, it's Ryan Wilson, ladies and gentlemen. No, look, Arthur Smith was a pretty good OC for the Titans at times. Najee Harris and Justin Fields with some of those passing game weapons. I mean, you could see that offense could turn things around. And if you get a full season for TJ Watts, who'd you rather have a quarterback, Kenny Pickett or Pete Prisco?
Pete Prisco at this point.
Ouch. Yeah, no, I think, look, they're the bet in this.
I think Pete Prisco's got bigger hands. He might be a smaller man, but I think he's got bigger hands.
It's a much smaller man. But the thing, like, Pete's fine.
Pete's not going to hear this, but for the record, Pete, I really like Pete. So
yeah,
I will. I'm letting him take these shots, but I'm not on board with this Pete.
I'm just messing with Pete. I love Pete. The Steelers are the current betting favorites to get Justin Fields. Now that's all based on basically just rumor and speculation and what reports from various media members. But there's a big fit, and I saw Albert Breer note for SI.com that Mike Tomlin, and Breer's an Ohio State guy, Mike Tomlin, other than the guys who coached at Ohio State or were from and played at Ohio State, Mike Tomlin knows Ohio State as well as any coach in the NFL. So there's actual fire where there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire in this case. Yeah, right.
Right? You said it right, just different. Yeah.
Yeah, and if Fields goes to the Steelers, those odds are going to change. So if you like the idea of Fields going to the Steelers, it's a great call, Katie. That's the team to bet on now instead of waiting, because that move is going to happen in the next couple of months.
Who are you thinking for your long shot? Nobody's buying in on the Commanders with the Dan Quinn and the new owner.
No. We got to get one more. We have one more real trash. Technically. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess we can lump them in if we wanted to, but yeah, I mean, I would. Oh, God, the meme, the Grand Theft Auto meme, where it's like, "Oh bleep, here we go again." Yeah. I kind of like the Broncos just because of Sean Payton, even though they have no quarterback. I don't know. I mean, I just think Sean Payton can flip things around quickly, but yeah, I mean, I think I would probably lean towards. I think Buccaneers, Seahawks, and Steelers probably the top three in this class.
All right, so let's move on to the basement then. That very last trash, as Brinson would say, and not as RJ and I would say, but a below Pete Prisco.
No.
I said as you would say. It's not what RJ and I would say, but we're just going on the theme here with you. All right, is this where the Commanders come into play? Because let's look at it. The Panthers, no. The Giants, no. Titans, Patriots. I mean, well, when you look this year, when you looked at the Patriots, and I think it was you who showed us this, Brinson, if those single score games, if you flip them,
Yeah.
they would have had a pretty good season.
Yeah. So
No,
as well, producer Harry points out in the rundown, the Texans were tied with the worst odds to win the Super Bowl
True.
at this point last year.
True.
They got CJ Stroud. Everyone thought they wanted Bryce Young. Bryce Young, the consensus favorite, top prospect in that draft class. I'm just saying, what if Jaden Daniels is this year's CJ Stroud? Commanders take him second, and Dan Quinn's a good football coach, and he flips it around. Like I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's possible. I mean, I think it's possible. It's not likely though. But I mean, like I'm just saying, like it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that Cliff Kingsbury comes in and you get a little offense in there. I don't know. Like we've seen Dan Quinn turn things around before. I think that would be my pick here, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, he went to a Super Bowl less than 10 years ago. I mean, he is right. He's an established coach. He knows what he's doing. And he took a defense in Dallas that had some problems before he got there and made them the best defense in the league. And Washington has more problems. We saw how poorly they performed last year. But he's a guy that can get it turned around. They'll get some talent in the building, and he's going to maximize that talent offensively. Kind of wish they would have kept Eric Bieniemy. I know that when you switch staffs like that, it's not likely, but the job he did with Sam Howell for stretches of last year, I mean, I wouldn't have expected that from Sam Howell coming into the season, and I would have liked to see what he could do with a top tier quarterback in the draft. Can Cliff Kingsbury do that type of job yet? I don't know. His tenure in Arizona wasn't the best. So we'll see if he can get it done here. And if he has those chops and he can, turn whoever gets picked into, like Bobby Sloak did, into CJ Stroud and help shepherd him to maximize his potential, that team's going to make a lot of noise. And this division isn't the toughest division. I mean, Dallas, we think is going to take a step back. Philly, you made a case for them. They may able to pass their window a little bit. I think the division could be wide open for a good coach that comes in and gets his team motivated and competing right away.
All right, there's one more thing left to do, and that was our picks, but we basically all have liked the chalk here and say take Kansas City plus 650, although Brinson has also sprinkled in the Rams. We don't need to hear him say why. We already know why. That is going to do it for our show. Make sure that you join us all week long for more NFL coverage. This is it for RJ and I, and the pick shows this year. You may see us sprinkled in here and there, but it's going to be more of the core old school crew. But yeah, make sure that you listen to the audio version, like, comment, and subscribe, download. You know the deal. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one.